This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Woman killed in Woodside Clarendon home invasion. The police in Clarendon are investigating the murder of a woman who was killed by unknown assailants at her home in Woodside last night. She has been identified as a 55-year-old chef Marlene Stewart Campbell. Reports from the Mapen police are that about 8 p.m., Stewart Campbell was at home when two men entered her premises and explosions were heard. The police were summoned and she was seen face down with gunshot wounds to the upper body. The body was removed to the morgue and the crime scene was processed. The attack comes days after a family of 4, including 2 children, was shot in the neighboring Havana Heights community on Tuesday night. The father of the children succumbed to his injuries. The news understands that the 3-year-old remains hospitalized in serious condition. As at December 11, 101 people have been murdered in Clarendon. This is a 7.4% increase when compared to 94 homicides that were recorded during the corresponding period last year. Women charged with beating a teenager to appear in court. The 5 women charged in connection with the beating of Kaylon Dowdy, 17, in Barbican, St. Andrew a year ago, are scheduled to return to the St. Andrew Parish Court today for a committal hearing. The women, who are all from Barbican Road, are charged with wounding with intent and unlawful wounding. It's alleged that on November 9, 2020, the women beat Kaylon until she became unconscious. Increase in adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccines. There has been an increase in the number of adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccines locally. Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Spence says the figure has risen to over 700. I don't have the breakdown of the types of causes, but we have overall reported so far 738 and 165 would have been designated as serious, Spence said. She was speaking during yesterday's sitting of the Joint Select Committee on the COVID-19 pandemic. Health Ministry to categorize vaccinated healthcare workers. The Ministry of Health says a few vaccination sites have started to categorize healthcare workers after they received the COVID-19 jab in order to provide more accurate data. Director of Family Health Services in the ministry, Dr. Melody Ennis, says there is no directive for the sites to separate the data. The Medical Association of Jamaica and the Nurses Association of Jamaica have called for the Health Ministry to shed light on the categories of healthcare workers that remain unvaccinated against COVID-19. This follows concern raised by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Besesa Mackenzie that a little over 50% of healthcare workers are vaccinated. Dr. Ennis says only about 3 sites have started to separate the categories of healthcare workers who have been vaccinated. She says from the 3 sites disaggregating the data, about 90% of the healthcare workers vaccinated are doctors and 60% are nurses. Dr. Ennis also said that another method of collecting the data on the categories of healthcare workers who have been inoculated against the COVID-19 would be done through the Human Resource Department of hospitals. However, she says some healthcare workers are unwilling to provide the information. St. Elizabeth, a person of interest charged with murder. Domain Robinson, the man who last week turned himself into the St. Elizabeth police after being listed as a person of interest, has been charged with murder and a conspiracy to commit murder. The charges stem from a July 22, 2019 incident. The police reported that about 6:15 p.m. on the day in question, 41-year-old Domain Day was gunned down in Southfield, St. Elizabeth. The deceased taxi operator was reportedly parked in the town square when 2 men approached him. One of them then pulled a firearm and shot him several times to the chest. Day was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The officers added that 28-year-old Robinson, who is also known as Domain Miles and Lizard, was charged following an interview in the presence of his attorney. His court date is being arranged. He remains in police custody as the police continue their investigation into other matters. Omicron variant could be in Jamaica by year-end, the health minister said. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is likely to be in Jamaica by the end of the year if it's not already here. The Health Ministry has sent samples overseas to be tested for the variant, but is yet to receive any results. However, Dr. Tufton says Jamaicans must be vigilant given the likelihood the variant is already here. At the risk of appearing to be an alarmist, given that we know of this season and the interactions that are likely to take place, it is highly likely that if the virus isn't here already, it is highly likely that it will be here after the holiday season. This is why we have continued to emphasize the wearing of masks. Cases of the heavily mutated variant have been confirmed in more than 70 countries. The Health Ministry is predicting a fourth wave of COVID-19 infections come January. Meanwhile, 10 suspected cases of Omicron variant are being investigated in the Cayman Islands. Medical Officer of Health Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez made the revelation at a media briefing yesterday. Cayman recorded its first case of the variant on Wednesday. It involved a traveler from the U.S. who was found to be positive 2 days after arriving in the territory. Dr. Williams Rodriguez said a person in the traveler's household was among the 10 suspected cases. The others were all incoming travelers, most of whom came from the U.S., with one each from Canada, Mexico, and the United Kingdom. Government officials at yesterday's media briefing said they would review travel restrictions, which were introduced late last month following the identification of the new variant in South Africa. OUR moving to verify JPS charges arising from increased fuel costs. The Office of Utilities Regulation says it has stepped in to verify the composition and the computation of certain charges as the Jamaica Public Service Company warns customers about higher bills due to a rise in fuel charges. The Light and Power Company advised the customers on Tuesday that it has been experiencing higher fuel prices in the past few months as a result of the international upsurge in prices. This, it said, would lead to higher electricity bills for customers in the coming weeks as the company faces increase in fuel costs. It urged the customers to conserve energy usage to limit the impact on their bills. The OUR says it has received the correspondence from JPS on the situation, noting that the company has attributed that the increases to the higher commodity prices for oil and natural gas internationally and the devaluation of the Jamaican dollar against the U.S. currency. JPS also cited the temporary switch from natural gas to the more expensive automotive diesel oil at several plants for a combination of reasons. The OUR says it recognizes the potential rate shock to customers, but is also mindful that the costs pertaining to charges by independent power producers and the foreign exchange rate movements are direct passed through to customers. These are explicitly provided for the electricity license 2016 and the JPS rate schedule, and as such are not subject to regulatory control. However, the regulator said that it has a duty to verify the composition and the computation of such charges and how they are applied to customers' bills. As such, the OUR has written to JPS requesting additional information including the rates and charges applied to customers' categories for November 2021 and December 2021, analysis of the increases in fuel and the IPP cost arising from the switch from natural gas to and automotive diesel oil, an explanation as to why some plants switched from natural gas to automotive diesel oil. The OUR said it expects to receive all requested information from JPS by December 24. Police Federation threatens to report wage dispute to ILO. The Police Federation is threatening to report its wage dispute with the government to the International Labour Organization. The federation, which represents rank-and-file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, says it will go this route if an attempt is made to force it into a wage deal for the 2021-2022 financial year. In September, the group rejected the government's 4% wage offer, describing it as an insult. Chairman of the Federation, Corporal Rohan James, told the news that he is still awaiting a meeting with the Finance Ministry to continue wage talks. Corporal James says any use of strong-arm tactics by the government during the negotiation will be strongly resisted. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.